A man walked out of a storage unit alone. His wife walked in with him. She never walked out. On November 11th, 2023, Shakeira Rucker left her home in Winter Springs, Florida, for dinner with her estranged husband, Cory Hill. Surveillance cameras caught them together that night at a restaurant in Polk County. It is the last confirmed footage of her alive. The next morning, cameras at a storage facility in Apopka recorded the two of them entering a unit registered to Hill at 6:39 a.m. 20 minutes later, only one person is seen leaving. Hours after that, Hill arrived at the home of another woman, Angel Milligan, in Orange County, and opened fire. For 6 days, Rucker's family searched without answers. What was eventually found inside that storage unit would connect two crime scenes, one name, and a man with a criminal history dating back more than 30 years.
Now to that mom of four who hasn't been seen since Saturday. Tonight, police say new evidence could put them on the right track to finding where she is.
Now, these are pictures of Shakeira Rucker. She was last seen with her estranged husband, who has now been named a person of interest by police and is currently in jail on unrelated charges. News 6's Catherine Silver joins us live from Winter Springs Police Department tonight, where Rucker's family met with investigators again. Catherine.
Instead of making plans for Thanksgiving next week, Shakeira Rucker's family came here to the police department today to talk to detectives about her disappearance. They told the family they are doing everything they can to find her, and they are making some progress, executing search warrants and sharing new evidence, what is believed to be the last photo of Rucker before she vanished. For 4 days, no one has seen or heard from Shakeira Rucker. One of the last places the mother of four was seen was in Polk County Saturday night, captured on security cameras, police say with Cory Hill, Rucker's estranged husband and person of interest in her disappearance. Rucker's family says her cell phone last pinged near Davenport, 50 miles away from her home in Winter Springs and 60 miles from Hill's home in Mount Dora.
Give us something, call in. Anything.
Her sister pleaded for answers during a search of the area Tuesday, also attended by a woman who says Hill tried to kill her the day after Rucker vanished.
He just pulled up and he got out and he said, "Don't run now," and I noticed the gun.
Angel Milligan says she dated Hill but broke it off when she discovered he was still married to Rucker. He is in custody in Orange County for Sunday's shooting and not talking to detectives about his wife's disappearance.
Here we deliver clear, factual, and up-to-date true crime stories. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay informed on the latest cases and investigations. On November 18th, 2023, a storage facility employee in Apopka, Florida, cut a padlock off unit number 3032. She had received a complaint about a smell. When she looked inside, she saw a body and called 911.
We had a complaint from a customer that it looked like something was leaking into his unit. We went ahead and now we cut the lock, but it looked like there's a body there. And what we can see is a head.
All right, we do have units on the way already.
What she found ended a 7-day search for a missing mother of four and confirmed what her family had already suspected, that the man she had reconciled with for one dinner had killed her. Cory Hill, charged with first-degree murder in the death of his wife, Shakeira Rucker, and with the attempted murder of another woman just hours later. It involves two women who did not know about each other, a 31-year-old murder conviction that should have been a warning sign, and a piece of physical evidence sitting on camera that nobody checked for a week. To understand this case, the timeline has to start more than 3 decades before Shakeira Rucker disappeared. On December 23, 1992, in Suffolk, Virginia, Cory Hill's car was stolen. His 23-month-old daughter was inside it at the time. The child was thrown from the vehicle during the theft. She survived. Weeks later, Hill went to the home of a man named Dontoan Everett, a suspect in the theft. According to court records, Hill arrived armed and got into an argument with Everett in the front yard. The argument ended with Hill firing a fatal shot. He was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years, plus 2 additional years for use of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Total sentence, 22 years. He was released from prison in 2005. Court records from Williamsburg, Virginia, show that 4 years later, in 2009, Hill was back in court 3 separate times on assault and battery charges. There is no public record of convictions resulting from all 3 of those cases, but the pattern is documented. In 2016, Hill relocated to the Orlando, Florida area. He started an electrical business, naming it Anointed Hands Electrical. He built a public identity around faith, referring to himself as Ambassador Cory and attending church regularly. By outward appearance, he was a business owner and a man of religious conviction with a violent chapter in his past that was, on the surface, behind him. This is the man Shakeira Rucker would later marry. Shakeira Yvonne Rucker was 37 years old, from Winter Springs, Florida. She worked as a hair braider and was known locally as Kira the Braider. She was the mother of 4 children, ages 7, 9, 16, and 18 at the time of her death. Family members describe her routine as centered on 3 things: work, church, and her children. Rucker and Hill married on October 25, 2022. Publicly, the relationship looked stable. Hill's Facebook page through late 2022 and into 2023 documented birthdays, Valentine's Day, dinners, and shopping trips, with captions describing her as his queen and everything. Behind that public record, a second relationship was already running in parallel. In early 2023, Hill began a relationship with a woman named Angel Milligan, also a mother of 4, living in the Orange County area. According to Milligan's own public statements, she had no knowledge that Hill was married. His explanation for his frequent absences was that he was out of town for work. There is documented evidence of how integrated Hill became in Milligan's daily routine. On August 26, 2023, Milligan posted a video from inside her home showing a man riding a lawnmower outside, captioned, "Early morning cut. Thanks, Cory Hill." The video was taken before 8 a.m., meaning Hill was at Milligan's residence performing yard work in the early morning hours, while still legally married and living, at least nominally, with Rucker. This arrangement continued for several months without either woman's knowledge of the other. In September 2023, Angel Milligan learned that Cory Hill was married. The exact mechanism by which she found out is not fully detailed in public records, but what happened next is documented. Milligan called Shakeira Rucker directly and told her that Hill had been in a relationship with her, Milligan, for months, and that she herself had only just learned the truth. Rucker removed Hill from their shared home the same day she received that call. When Hill found out that Milligan had made the call to Rucker, he threatened her. According to a later police report, he told her she would regret calling his wife. In response, Milligan filed for and was granted a legal injunction, a domestic violence protective order, barring Hill from coming near her. That injunction was active and in force at the time of the events that follow. Following his removal from the home, Hill and Rucker remained in contact. Public records do not make clear whether this was framed as reconciliation, closure, or something else. But by early November 2023, the two were back in communication and made plans to meet. In the days immediately before that meeting, Hill's public social media activity intensified. On November 9th, 2023, 2 days before Rucker disappeared, Hill changed his Facebook profile picture to a photo of the two of them together, with a caption referring to her as "My Rib, My Queen." The following day, November 10th, he updated his cover photo, labeling the two of them Mr. and Mrs. Hill. At approximately 7:30 p.m. on November 11th, 2023, Shakeira Rucker left her Winter Springs home. She told her children she would be back soon. Surveillance cameras at a restaurant in Davenport, Polk County, roughly 50 miles from her home, captured Rucker and Hill together that evening. This is the last confirmed footage of Rucker alive. A family member who later reviewed the surveillance photo from that dinner noted that Rucker did not appear to be smiling and that something about the image seemed wrong. Hill later told investigators that after dinner, he drove Rucker back toward her home and dropped her off near the mailboxes of her apartment complex. He offered no further account. Rucker's family rejected this version of events from the outset, and surveillance evidence from the following morning directly contradicts it. At a self-storage facility located at 2400 Wiggins Road in Apopka, surveillance cameras recorded both Rucker and Hill arriving together and entering storage unit number 3032 on the morning of November 12th. Hill punched in his access code to enter the unit at approximately 6:39 a.m. Cameras then recorded Hill leaving the unit alone roughly 20 minutes later. Rucker did not walk out, not that morning, and not at any point afterward. At some point between 6 a.m. and 6:45 a.m. that same morning, a text message was sent from Rucker's phone to her daughter. The message said she was on her way home with food. She never arrived. Based on the surveillance timeline, investigators believe Rucker may already have been dead inside the storage unit by the time that message was sent, which raises the question of who actually sent it. Hill had one additional stop that day. At approximately 10 a.m. on November 12th, roughly 3 hours after the storage facility surveillance places him leaving Unit 3032 alone, Hill arrived at Angel Milligan's home on Holly Creek Road in Orange County, in violation of the active injunction against him. According to Milligan's statements to deputies and to media, Hill approached the home and told her, "Don't run now." She turned to run inside. Gunfire followed. Milligan said she felt 2 rounds pass close to her face as she ran. Family members, including children, were inside the home at the time. Bullets struck the interior walls. Hill then fled the scene.
He just pulled up and he got out and he said, "Don't run now," and I noticed the gun.
Deputies later matched, fired 9mm cartridge casings recovered from the Milligan shooting to casings recovered from the Rucker homicide scene. Hill's vehicle was also identified at both locations. Investigators concluded that the 2 incidents were directly connected. Hill is alleged to have killed Rucker then driven to confront and shoot at the other woman who had exposed his double life. Hill was arrested shortly afterward in the Mount Dora area. He was charged at that time with 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder with a firearm, 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder with a firearm, burglary of a dwelling with assault and battery, shooting into a building, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and violation of a domestic violence injunction. He was booked into the Orange County Jail and held without bond. At this point, Shakeira Rucker's location was still unknown to law enforcement and to her family. On November 14, 2023, the Winter Springs Police Department formally named Hill a person of interest in Rucker's disappearance, citing the surveillance footage placing the 2 of them together at the Polk County restaurant on the night of November 11th. Rucker's family did not wait for the investigation to develop on its own timeline. They organized and conducted their own physical searches, focused on wooded areas near Bob White Airfield in Mount Dora and around Round Lake Road, areas near both Hill's residence and the site of the shooting at Milligan's home. Multiple agencies became involved, including the Winter Springs Police Department, the Orange County Sheriff's Office, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the FBI, and Lake County's Electronic Crimes Division. Investigators reported working 16 to 18-hour days during this period. A detail provided by Rucker's brother, Clarence Thornton, helped direct the search. He told investigators that Hill's furniture was not fully present in his residence, a possible indicator that Hill was using outside storage.
Very disappointing, because we told them that it could be the storage because all his furniture wasn't in the house.
Do you have any more questions that you would want answered about the whole investigation, how it turned out?
Yes, and for someone that works at the storage, how did you not know with all the cameras?
However, the Orange County Sheriff's Office later noted that there are hundreds of storage facilities across Central Florida, and investigators had no way to identify the specific unit without additional information. During this period, investigators also had to work through difficulty pinpointing which specific facility was involved. The Orange County Sheriff's Office later noted publicly that there are hundreds of self-storage facilities scattered across the Central Florida region, and that without a more precise lead, manually checking each one was not a realistic option. The case ultimately turned not on a break inside the investigation itself, but on an unrelated complaint from a member of the public. That additional information came from an unrelated source. The man renting the storage unit adjacent to 3032 had noticed a problem for several days before the body was discovered. A reddish liquid seeping under the shared wall into his unit, along with a worsening odor. He reported it to facility staff, who told him it was likely an oil leak. He returned, reported it again, and eventually documented the issue on video himself before calling 911. That call came in on November 18, 2023. The facility manager responded, cut the lock off Unit 3032, and saw enough inside to immediately call emergency services. Orange County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to 2400 Wiggins Road shortly before 5 p.m. that day. Body camera footage from the scene captured the discovery. A woman in a blue shirt and blue pants fired cartridge casings near her head, including one found in her hair, blood on the floor and walls, bullet holes in the unit, and 2 tires placed over the body. One responding deputy can reportedly be heard on body camera audio identifying the body before officers had a warrant to enter. Shakeira Rucker had been inside that storage unit for 6 days. The following day, the Orange County Sheriff's Office publicly confirmed that Rucker had been found dead inside the storage unit, and that the case was being investigated as a homicide. Sheriff John Mina stated that Hill was the sole suspect and that no one else was being sought in connection with the case. Mina also noted that the storage unit was registered directly to Hill, making the choice to use that location for the body especially notable from an investigative standpoint.
That we wanted to be giving you all today. As you know, unfortunately, we have found Shakeira Rucker deceased yesterday. And so we just want to extend our deepest condolences to Shakeira's family. My heart breaks. I can't imagine the pain and suffering that they have been enduring this past week. So last night, our detectives did notify Shakeira's family and that we had found her, and now they can start the painful process of grieving her loss. So you guys have all been covering this story for a week. There's been a lot of twists and turns. I've covered lots of different jurisdictions, including Lake County, Seminole County, Orange County, Polk County, all assisting the Winter Springs Police Department in the search for Shakeira. So we were all hoping for a different outcome.
On November 22nd, 2023, an arrest warrant was secured charging Hill with first-degree murder with a firearm in Rucker's death, based on the surveillance timeline and forensic evidence connecting both crime scenes. However, due to Florida procedural rules, prosecutors were initially limited in what charge they could file by information prior to presenting the case to a grand jury. On December 1st, 2023, the State Attorney's Office for the 9th Judicial Circuit formally filed a second-degree murder charge against Hill for Rucker's death. Not because the evidence supported a lesser charge, but because state procedure required grand jury presentation before a first-degree murder charge could be formally filed. This charge guaranteed Hill would continue to be held without bond while the case developed further. In January 2024, an Orange County grand jury heard the full case. On January 18, 2024, the grand jury returned a formal indictment against Hill on 9 total counts, the most serious being first-degree murder with a firearm, a capital offense under Florida law. That same day, State Attorney Andrew Bain announced that his office would seek the death penalty against Hill. Bain cited 2 statutory aggravating factors required under Florida law to support a capital prosecution. First, the cold, calculated, and premeditated nature of the homicide, pointing to the fact that the storage unit used to conceal the body was rented in advance by Hill, and that the act showed planning rather than spontaneity. Second, Hill's prior violent felony conviction, the 1992 second-degree murder conviction in Virginia. Under Florida sentencing law, a defendant's history of prior violent felony convictions involving the use or threat of violence is one of the enumerated aggravating factors a prosecutor can use to support a capital case. Hill was arraigned on January 25, 2024, and entered a plea of not guilty to all 9 counts. Under current Florida law, a capital sentencing process requires a separate penalty phase if a defendant is convicted of first-degree murder. A jury must find that at least one statutory aggravating factor has been proven, and under the state's current sentencing statute, a recommendation of death requires at least 8 of 12 jurors to agree, rather than a unanimous verdict. The two aggravating factors cited by the state attorney's office: premeditation tied to the advance rental of the storage unit, and the prior violent felony conviction from 1992, would need to be argued and proven during that phase if the case proceeds to trial and results in a conviction. Hill's defense team subsequently filed a motion to suppress the evidence recovered from storage unit 3032, including the body itself, the cartridge casings, the blood evidence, and any associated DNA findings. The argument centered on the Fourth Amendment. Deputies opened the locked unit and entered before obtaining a search warrant. According to the defense filing, body camera footage shows the storage unit door was closed and locked when deputies arrived. A responding deputy opened the door himself, and upon seeing what appeared to be a body inside, both deputies entered the unit before a warrant had been secured. The defense argued that Hill had a reasonable and demonstrated expectation of privacy in the unit, given that it was closed and locked, and that the warrantless entry violated his constitutional rights, making everything subsequently recovered inadmissible under the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. Prosecutors have countered, and the court ultimately addressed this question by weighing exceptions to the warrant requirement, including the property owner's contractual right of entry under the facility's rental agreement and exigent circumstances tied to the apparent presence of a body and decomposition. A hearing on the motion was held in July 2024, with no ruling issued at that time, and a follow-up hearing scheduled for October 2024. That is the most recent publicly confirmed point in the pretrial process as of current available records. No trial date, verdict, or final ruling on the suppression motion has been confirmed in public reporting since that point. The outcome of this motion carries significant weight for how the case proceeds. The physical evidence recovered from inside the unit, the body itself, the cartridge casings, and the blood evidence forms the core of the physical case tying Hill directly to Rucker's death, separate from the circumstantial timeline built from surveillance footage. If a court were to grant the suppression motion in whole or in part, prosecutors would need to rely more heavily on the surveillance timeline, the ballistics match between the two crime scenes, and witness testimony to make their case. If the motion is denied, the physical evidence collected at the scene remains available for trial. As of the most recently available public records, no ruling on this motion has been confirmed. The discovery of Rucker's body triggered an immediate public response. Within 48 hours, more than 50 family members and friends gathered at a local park for a candlelight vigil. State Attorney Bain and Sheriff Mina both attended in person. Family members later reported that Hill's conduct during subsequent court appearances was a point of significant frustration, describing behavior in the courtroom that they characterized as dismissive toward Rucker's grieving relatives, though these are family accounts rather than verified court transcripts. Rucker was laid to rest following a wake on December 1st, 2023, and a memorial service on December 2nd, 2023 in Orlando. She is survived by her 4 children. Her eldest son, 18 at the time, took on a caretaking role for his younger siblings following her death. In the days following her disappearance, Rucker's family also set up a public fundraising page to support her 4 children, which collected approximately $35,000 in donations during the following months. Family members described the funds as intended to cover immediate needs for the children, including housing stability and school-related costs, while the case moved through the legal system. In February 2024, Rucker's family formally launched a non-profit organization called the For My Sister Foundation, focused on domestic violence awareness and transitional housing support. The transitional housing component was specifically informed by a detail raised by one of Rucker's sisters at a later community event, that a lack of affordable housing options can be a direct barrier preventing people from leaving dangerous relationships. Public records indicate Rucker had moved into her own apartment roughly 2 months before her disappearance. She was in the process of establishing independent housing at the time she agreed to the November 11th dinner. The Foundation's public materials connect this detail directly to Rucker's own circumstances, framing the organization's housing assistance work as a direct response to a documented gap in support services for people attempting to exit abusive or controlling relationships. Family members have also used the Foundation's platform to host community events on domestic violence awareness, partnering with established regional organizations that already operate shelters and hotlines in the Central Florida area. Angel Milligan survived the shooting at her home, but has publicly described facing harassment and online criticism afterward from people who blamed her for contacting Rucker about the affair. She has stated publicly that she received no formal support, financial, psychological, or otherwise, in the aftermath, despite being a direct victim in the case and despite having taken the documented action of warning another woman about Hill's behavior. Members of the community pushed back publicly against this criticism, noting that any blame in the case belongs to Hill rather than to either woman he deceived. As of the most recent confirmed public records, Cory Hill remains in custody at the Orange County Jail without bond. He has been indicted on first-degree murder with a firearm in connection with Shakeira Rucker's death, along with the attempted murder and related charges connected to the shooting at Angel Milligan's home. The state attorney's office has formally filed notice of intent to seek the death penalty, based on the premeditated nature of the killing and Hill's 1992 murder conviction. The defense's motion to suppress evidence recovered from the storage unit remains a central unresolved legal question in the case, with the most recently confirmed hearing taking place in 2024. No confirmed trial date or verdict has been publicly reported as of the most recent available records. This case combines several elements that recur across documented domestic violence homicides. A perpetrator with an established history of lethal violence who was able to reintegrate into a community without that history becoming widely known. 2 women independently deceived by the same person. A period of escalation following the exposure of that deception. And a victim who was actively in the process of leaving the relationship at the time she was killed. The eventual outcome of the prosecution, including the unresolved suppression motion, will determine what evidence the state is permitted to use at trial and what the legal record will ultimately reflect about how Shakeira Rucker's body was found. Thanks for watching. Did you find this case informative? If you want more true crime stories, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.